Let's be honest, we all love the huge skies and the insane layouts. However, great offense isn't just built on hero plays. But hey, don't look at me. I ain't got nothing for you. Instead, I hit up some of the best players in the game for their best piece of offensive advice, and you're gonna wanna listen to this. The first tip is coming from Raleigh Phoenix and Raleigh Radiance player Alex Barnett. As she mentions to not be afraid to make mistakes, it's the fastest way to get better. And this is 100% true because obviously we don't wanna mess up, but when we do, not if, this gives us immediate feedback on what skills need to be worked on. On top of this, being afraid is only going to make you hesitate on offense. There's already a bunch of other things to think about on the field, so don't waste time letting fear be one of them. Up next, we have Chicago Machine and Chicago Union's Pavlianis. And he says to simply be the best athlete you can be, and throwing is not that important.
Stop the cap.
But just like defense, being an athlete is important for offense as well. Because like I mentioned in the beginning, everyone loves making the big highlight play. And this can be achieved routinely the more of an athlete you truly are. So make sure you put that work in. And if you need a workout program to help you with that, Antoine Davis can hook you up. Now, even though throwing is not that important, recent 2025 Hall of Famer Kurt Gibson talks about throwing here. Very short and sweet, but his advice is to take high percentage throws. Now, these percentages can vary based on a bunch of different factors. Obviously, you have to take into account your own abilities as a thrower, and sometimes I know I can be a little bit shaky. From there, the window that you're throwing into is very important as well. Like, is there a whole bunch of space? Is your cutter wide open? Or is it going to be more of a tight squeeze to get that disc in there? Sometimes you have to think about the receiver you're actually throwing to. Like, if you got someone like Jeff Babbitt, everything is open. Then on the flip side, what about the defender? Are they an absolute baller and playing lockdown defense? If so, maybe you might need the holster. So these are the kind of things to keep in mind when you're trying to evaluate which throws to take or not. Now, you might remember from my defensive tips video, I was able to get in touch with San Francisco Fury's Dina Elamelik, but I kind of got left hanging. Well, I decided to reach out again, and your boy got a text back. But if you were curious about our defensive tip, it was to push your limits and really commit to taking something away, even if you get burned. So that's a little bonus for you, but from an offensive perspective, she says to cut hard, confident, and cut to make space. I want to focus on that last part because it pairs well with what Joe Marmonstein had to say. But if you don't know Joe Mama, he currently plays for Rhino, and you might have heard his voice in an OT World analysis video. Like this recent one about the death of the IO, definitely suggest checking that one out. But similar to Dina, he says to be somebody that makes offense easier for the other 6 players on the field. Since he is an analysis guy, he goes in way deeper, so feel free to pause the video. But I like the specific part of a mental reframe from how can I get the disc on this cut to what kind of cut can I make that maximizes our chances of score. Creating space for others is just as valuable as being the one cutting for the disc. Even if you're the best player on the team, usually getting the most touches, leaving that space open for the rest of the team might sometimes just be the better option. And since we're already on the topic of teammates, the next 2 players are going to key in on that as well. We got advice from the content king out of Davenport University, Kai Creed, and then I also got input from Aurora Leshnik, who plays for, I'm going to butcher this team name so bad, but it's not group, but it's like, I'm not going to try. I'm going to stop right there. Kai calls out to play in a way that supplements your teammates, and Aurora calls out to study your teammates and learn their tendencies and styles of play. Basically, figuring out your teammates' strengths and weaknesses can be crucial to unlocking max efficiency on the field. If you listen to Don DeMarais right here, it's simply the little things.
This is also because it's Paul, and me and Paul made a really good connection together. And I know he likes that inside flick.
So once you understand what your teammates are looking for, it can really help to facilitate that movement. And that flows right into communication, which is exactly what 2024 European Player of the Year, Fleur Clartz, talks about. Specifically, she says to talk about what you see and what the defense is doing, where the space is, and where you're going. Just like any romantic relationship, it thrives on communication, and that's no different between teammates on offense. This could be talking strategy on the sideline or direct on-the-field communication, whether that be verbal or non-verbal. Any communication is always helpful. Let's switch back to an individual focus and go on over to Tobias Brooks, who plays for Colorado Mama Bird in the Colorado Summer. Wait, the Colorado Apex? Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief. But anyway, his advice is to be dynamic and not get attached to a single role, because the best players are the ones that can attack you from anywhere on the field. Now, I'm not even going to add on to this one, but instead I'm going to let Connor McHale expand on this one for me. Connor is one of the top dogs over in Europe and currently plays for Clapham. I was able to ask him this question through his Instagram story, so check out this video response.
My one piece of offensive advice would be to never settle. Never settle on a particular skill. Try and become the most all-round developed player that you can. Because the more all-round developed player you are, the more difficult you are to stop. Which I think is why we're seeing growth in more and more hybrids, people who are able to go and cut up field and score a number of goals, and then are also very confident on disc because it's much harder to defensively plan for those people. So yes, try not to find yourself in a box. Try and get developed in as many different offensive skills as possible.
I definitely couldn't have said it any better, and while we're on the topic of not settling, that leads us straight to Toba Ducano, aka the reigning UFA MVP who currently plays for Boston Glory and Boston Dig. And he says to know your systems, and on top of that, watch film to improve those systems. So obviously when you're out on the field, you should know the system your team is running. And if you aren't already, I suggest using something like Ultiplays for this exact reason. That way anyone on the team can study different plays as needed on their own time. And the easiest way to help improve those systems is to look back on your team's film if you have that available. If you don't, I highly suggest you get the team to invest in that because it's definitely a game changer. But if not, the next best thing is to watch games from other top teams that run similar systems and see if you can try to implement what they're doing to your own team. Now for this next one, I gotta give my thanks to Joe Mama again for reaching out to his teammate and recent World Games champ, Rafi Hayes. And yes, it's pronounced Rafi like coffee, not Raffy like taffy. You learn something new every day. He calls out getting the advantage of your matchup can feel like rock, paper, scissors, or sometimes you're just gonna lose the battle. They may have these different traits over you, but if you find where your advantage is and play to that, you will be more successful. So I like to just call this your superpower. And for me, I'm pretty shifty, so I love getting isolated in spaces to get open. You might be a great deep threat or unstoppable in the reset space. Whatever it is, try to get to your spot so you can thrive. And if you don't have a superpower, go back to square one and figure that one out. But I do have one last piece of advice, and this is coming from Elliot Bonnet, who's probably one of the best players out of France. I think what he says is a great way to sum up all the advice from this video. But the main thing is just adaptation. Adapt to how you're defended, to your teammates, to your feelings, to the team you're playing against, and to the system. Don't mind me. That was beautiful. I don't think I have to say anymore.